Hello there guys, it's Michael here, and in this video we're going to be following up on my previous video about how to play guitar pain-free and how to avoid guitar-related injuries like RSI, carpal tunnel and cubital tunnel. If you haven't seen the previous video, I highly recommend you go and check that one out because everything we talked about in that video was to help you prevent developing these guitar-related injuries. This video is going to be exploring my stretching routine, the one that I did when I first had this accident and had to go through the whole process of having surgery on my arm and recovering and rehabilitating myself, and exercises that I still use to this day to develop my flexibility, to keep myself relaxed and to avoid any excess tension in my playing. Now, if you have developed any sort of guitar-related injuries, then this video will be very, very helpful to you. Now, if you've never had a guitar-related injury, I am so happy for you and I want it to stay that way. So don't skip this video because you may pick up a few things to add in your practice routine for healthier guitar practice, and that will be a world of difference for you down the track should you ever come across one of these injuries. Now, the last little disclaimer before we begin is I am not a doctor. I'm not technically qualified to give you any medical advice, so take this as being general. I am, however, a professional guitar teacher. These are the exact same stretches and exercises which have done wonders for me in my flexibility, in easing off the tension, in overcoming my own RSI and guitar-related injuries. Anytime students come to me about their own guitar-related injuries, I always take them through this process and give them these stretches to do. It's been very helpful for them, it's been very helpful for me, and I hope that it is very helpful for you. If you do develop any RSI, carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, tendonitis, tendinosynovitis, any guitar-related injuries, make sure you see a doctor, get proper professional medical advice, and if your doctor gives you permission, use these stretches in relation and alongside any of the exercises that they give you. So let's dive right into it. So the first stretch we're going to be doing is a very, very simple one, and this was given to me by a physiotherapist when I first started having these issues. He said to me, Michael, human beings aren't meant to be jammed up like this playing guitar or on a computer and doing things like that, but of course, whatever posture we have for extended periods of time, we adopt. He said to me, for every hour you spend hunched over like that, spend 5 minutes bending the opposite. So all you need to do for this one is stand up straight with your feet shoulder length apart, and you are just gonna lean back like that. Put your hands up and lean back. And again, I'm gonna squat down to try and fit myself in here, but you're just gonna lean back, roll your arms that way, and of course, hold it for 5-10 seconds, and then relax. Now, if you've never done this stretch before, you might be feeling really jammed and you might not be able to get your arms up all the way. That's totally fine. You just want to basically continue to build your flexibility. And there was a point in time where I could not raise my hand above my that ankle there. It was a really, really difficult thing because I was just so jammed up with extra tension. So to do this one more time, you're just going to stand straight. You're going to put your shoulders level, get that T posture, and then just put your hands up in the air, just behind your ears, and then lean back. Now guys, I do apologize in advance. I'm a very hairy individual, and I'm wearing shorts. I was going to borrow my girlfriend's Van Halen leggings for this one, but she was in a Zoom meeting, so I didn't get to ask for permission. Just thought I'd just go with what I'm wearing. So guys, I apologize again in advance. You get me raw, uncensored here, unfiltered in all my glory. So hopefully we can see past the fact that I've got really hairy legs and go, you know what, we're here to learn how to improve our flexibility and overcome these guitar-related injuries, and my hairy legs are the least of your concerns right now. Anyway, let's get into stretch number 2. The first stretch was all about increasing our flexibility of our shoulders while reducing tension. Our second one is going to be more to do with our arms, and this is going to be hopefully taking away some of the referred pain. What I mean by referred pain, if you've got lower back pain or shoulder pain, often the way you hold your back or the way that you stand or even sit, especially if you've got a guitar in your lap, is going to affect everything down the line. You learned that song in primary school, the bone's connected to the leg bone. Well, everything in your body is connected. And if you're trying to stand on an angle because you've got a worn out sole of your shoe, it might sound simple and silly, but this actually happens. That's going to pull one other thing out of alignment. That's going to pull something else out of alignment, and it gets referred down the chain until you think you've got a problem with your fingers, but it's actually a problem that you have with your back. Stretch number 2 is going to be an arm stretch, and this one, all we need to do is basically get our hand at a right angle. We're going to open our palm up, we're going to put our other hand across our fingers like that, and we are going to push our hand forward and stretch out our elbow like that. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. come back in, do it again. 1, 2, 3. Relax it one more time. 1, 2, 3. And that's all you need to do with that hand. Swap over, do the same thing on the other side, and stretch your hand out as much as you can. Now, hopefully you're getting a really good stretch in the tendons and muscles in your forearm there. If you do a lot of office work on a computer and then you go and play guitar, you're going to have really, really tense fingers and sore tendons there. And this is going to be a really great one for that. The important thing basically isn't to overstretch this one. Count to 3, maybe 5 tops. Repeat that 3 times. Basically, once in the morning, once ahead of your practice session, and maybe once more before bed. You do not need to do this stretch or any other stretch for 30 seconds on end. We're not training for a football game. We're dealing with, micro muscles, tendons, fibers, all those kind of things, not big macro muscles like our hamstrings. So we only need to do a short amount of stretching because you can definitely overdo it. Anyway, let's dive into stretch number 3. Our third stretch is going to be for the top of our forearm. This is going to be a really good one for anyone that suffers from tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, which are all different names for basically tearing or straining the muscle here through overuse. Now this one, we're basically going to put our hand out like this, and we're going to take our other hand, make like an L shape there, and we are going to put it underneath our wrist. A lot of people, when they stretch, they press this hand down like this and press this hand down like this. That is a great way to give yourself carpal tunnel if you are overdoing that and compressing the median nerve in your hand there. So we put our thumb out like this to protect it. We grab our hand and basically bend our wrist down. You can see the side angle there where my wrist is bent down, and if I show you from this view here, you can see that as well. So once I get my hand straight and bend my wrist down, what I'm going to do is imagine I've got a string attached to the bottom of my elbow there, and as I pull the string up, it's going to pivot my elbow like that, except that this hand is holding my wrist in place. So what I do is I turn my elbow up towards the roof, count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and relax. And then I do that 2 more times. 1, 2, 3, and I relax. And if I just turn on an angle like that so you can see, I can twist and flex my elbow like that. I want to get the bottom up towards the roof. 1, 2, 3. I relax, I swap sides, and just like I said with the previous exercise, you can do that at least once a day, if not up to 3 times. Don't do that for an hour on end. We are just stretching out our muscles and trying to provide that relaxation from the excess tension that we have, as well as creating extra flexibility. Stretch number 4 is one of my absolute favorites, and as silly as it makes me look, this is one that I would do backstage as I was getting ready to go on and perform. I would do it in the middle of class at university because it was so good for my shoulders, and my shoulders was where I was carrying most of my excess tension. Now this one, we are going to basically put one hand up towards the roof and try and get it behind our ear. If I go from side on, I'm not having it up like that, like I'm putting my hand up to ask a question in class. I want to make sure I bend it back so it is behind my ear. And then once my shoulder's there, what I'm going to do is rotate 5 to 10 times in a clockwise direction. Now when I did this 10 years ago, it was like a cement grinder going off with so much popping and crackling because I was just so tense. After you've done 5 to 10 times in one direction, go counterclockwise and try that one out. And then swap sides, put your hand up, try and get it so your elbow is behind your ear, and then rotate in whichever direction you go first. I've gone counterclockwise, and after 5 or 10, go around the other direction there. Now that one made me look really, really silly. Everyone in my band would hang so much crap on me for looking ridiculous, especially with my face paint and my body armor and all the other stage getup we had. But that one just instantly made me feel that relief from that tension. You might even have this now, that kind of like flow of energy, that release, which hopefully feels really good and is a great indication that we're heading in the right direction by doing some of these stretches. Stretch number 5 is another shoulder stretch, and this is probably one that I learned in primary school. Most other people did when they were pretty young in sports class, and that's just shrugging and rolling your shoulders. So nothing complex about this one here. You're just going to roll your shoulders backwards a couple of times, maybe 5 to 10 times backwards, and then go in the opposite direction. Hopefully that's not going all crackling in the microphone there, and it's pretty clean for you, but rolling your shoulders and shrugging like that is a really, really great way of freeing up that excess tension. And hopefully, as your shoulders get less tense, you actually notice how tense you are in your hands and even your fingers and forearms there. So if that's the case, you may want to swap the order around and start with your shoulders, then move down your hands so that you progressively ease off the tension and relax throughout your body. But that is another great stretching exercise that you can do. Exercise 6 is going to be all about our wrists, and this one we just hold our hands up like this, we link them together and we make a ball between our two hands. And what we're going to do is just do a figure 8 rolling motion with our wrists, and you can do this maybe for 15 to 20 seconds. You can change direction, go around the other way, that's totally fine as well, but just keep your wrists moving, and that's going to hopefully not sound like a cement mixer, which once again mine did back in the day when I did this one. But get your wrists all nice and smooth, and then that's going to relax your fingers as a consequence of that one there. So that's another really good one. I don't know if you'd call that a stretch, but it's definitely an exercise that you can do. Now, stretch number 7 is going to be a really, really good one if you get a lot of lower back pain. There's a couple of different variations. You can do it standing, you can do it laying down, but they all have the same effect. Now, I just like to stand with my feet shoulder length apart and stand up straight and just swing and pivot like this one. So literally my feet are standing and stopped in the one position, and as I just turn from side to side, that's just freeing up my lower back. Now, when I used to play V-shaped guitars and you couldn't actually sit properly with a V-shaped guitar, this was my all-time favorite exercise because it just made me feel so good afterwards. If you're sitting in an office chair at work all day and you come home and you sit on the end of your bed, which is even worse, and you're tilting your guitar on funny angles, that's going to do all sorts of damage to your lower back, especially compounded over time. So doing these kind of pivot exercises is going to hopefully do wonders. Now, if you stand up a lot in practice, then you can put on your guitar and use the weight of your guitar as you swing and pivot to give you that extra little bit of stretch. And I always used to love doing this one backstage with my guitar on. Made you look pretty cool and also felt pretty good. You can also do this one by laying down and bringing your knee across one way while keeping the other leg, opposite leg straight, and that's another variation you can do which can stretch out. But if you've got any sort of lower back problems, lower back pain, then of course what can happen is they can become transferred to your shoulder and then down to your arms, your forearms and your fingers. So once again, remember that there is a chain, and one little thing out of alignment somewhere else in your body can have that butterfly effect and go down. So looking after your back is very, very important, and this exercise will help you keep it in shape and keep it flexible. Now, the final stretch we're going to take a look at in this video is a combination of, I think, 2 different yoga poses. I don't know the exact names for them. I just call them Michael's super special floor stretches that make you feel good when you play guitar. And we're going to have to change the camera setup for this one here. So bear with me, and when I click my fingers, hopefully we'll be ready to do this stretch. Here we go. So here we are for this last stretch. We've magicked the rooms. This one, I'm basically going to start kneeling down or sitting on my heels, and I'm going to put my hands down and lean forward and slide forward. So I want to basically arch my back like that and stretch out my shoulders and hold it for maybe 5 seconds, and that's going to basically stretch my shoulders out, and my head is just lightly touching the ground. I can pull back or sit back to further that stretch and get a little bit more out of it, but once I've reached the conclusion of that stretch for 5 to 10 seconds, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push forward and lay down on my stomach at this angle here. And then to complete this, I'm going to push up and just stretch out my lower back as well. And if you want to continue furthering that stretch, you just look up towards the roof, and that'll bring your neck into it as well. And you can just hang for up to 30 seconds. Whether you fatigue out and you can't hold yourself up any longer, or it starts getting a bit unbearable, that's fine. But the longer you let yourself hang on this one, the more relaxed your lower back is going to get. And basically when you finish after the time, you just lower yourself back down, you bring yourself back to that kneeling position, and then you repeat that process again. So I stretch my shoulders again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I push through and lay down, and I push up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll raise my neck for the next 5 seconds, and I'll lower myself back down and then return to that position. So there you go, guys. They are my 8 best stretches and exercises to help you overcome and avoid guitar-related injuries. Now, if you are suffering from RSI, carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, and you haven't watched the previous video, please make sure you go back and watch that, because I'm going to talk about preventative measures that you can use to develop better practice habits and hopefully never ever develop one of these injuries, because they are not fun and they are very hard to overcome. There is nothing you do in life that doesn't use your hands. Everything from tying your shoelace to cutting up your food to using a smartphone to playing guitar and everything in between. So we definitely want to avoid these injuries. Should you have some of these injuries already, then of course go and see a doctor and get advice on how to overcome them, and hopefully incorporating some of these stretches into your practice routine is going to help you either avoid it or again rehabilitate yourself and get back to playing pain-free as soon as possible. Now, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and if you know anyone who plays guitar in pain or may have quit guitar because they couldn't deal with it any longer, please share this video. From someone who couldn't play guitar for almost 3 years because of similar injuries which resulted in surgery, I know exactly what it's like to have guitar taken away from me, something which I love and cherish and can't imagine living without, was something I couldn't do for a very long period of time. And if I could help one person avoid falling into that same pattern of behavior and that same trap, then I'm doing my job here. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.